Hi, everybody. Buenos días. We've heard it this morning during the panel with Manuela. AI is developing at a rapid pace, and we are here today to show that it should be taken as a serious threat for our trade finance business. But before we start, we are very pleased to count with the special collaboration of our BAFT President and CEO, Todd Barwell. Thank you, Todd.
Good morning, everybody. Todd here. Thank you all for coming today. It is my great pleasure to introduce the future leaders working on the AI fraud topic.
Yes, and perhaps obvious, given the context. Though the video out there, and I can't see how it looks on the big screen, but the video itself was AI generated by a piece of software costing just $29. So more broadly, the benefits of AI when it comes to streamlining tasks, automating routine activities are quite clear. They're the same things that make AI useful for us, make it useful for people looking to defraud organizations, individuals, and banks.
Didn't you realize that the BAFT logo on the top left of Todd's head was moving along with him? In case you didn't, first tip of the day, be aware of inconsistent lip syncing, twitchy eyes, robotic facial movements, mismatches between body language and speech, and finally, no visible hands.
Yes, and as an example, last year criminals used AI to defraud an engineering company of $25 million. To kick things off, an employee in the finance department received an email prompting urgent action on an important transaction. Such emails are designed to make the recipient panic and act without due care or thought. However, the employee in this case was suspicious.
But even so, and even if our good employee was suspicious, the fraudsters organized a call between themselves and this employee. And then what did they do? In this call, they used AI to generate audio and video replicates of the company's senior employees, CEO, CFO, global head. So then in the end, our poor employee was convinced, and then he ended up remitting the funds to the fraudster's bank account.
Yes, and the case shows that the technology is here today to create AI-generated replicas of people sufficiently convincing to defraud organizations of serious sums of money.
Indeed, the threat is serious. But I think we can keep on going with the drama a little bit more. So we have 5 more facts to blow your minds.
Number 1, $40 billion.
$40 billion is the expected losses to be incurred by US banks and customers by 2027 due to AI-powered fraud.
Yes, and fraudsters, they like to impersonate well-known individuals and target those with the ability to execute payments.
We were checking during the past few days, and in the dark web, there are special toolkits to provoke AI fraud available for only USD $20.
Yes, remarkable and frightening. Any more figures for us, Carmen?
Yeah, for sure. Additionally, LinkedIn had to remove more than 87 million fake accounts during only the first quarter of 2024. So please remember well who you are connecting with during this BAFT Global Annual Meeting.
Yes, very wise advice. And to gauge the sentiment amongst the public, we also ran a survey.
For sure, we've also run a survey, and we've asked you all, our dear trade finance colleagues. We got 77 participants coming from more than 20 institutions worldwide, and out of these, more than 60% of the participants have more than 10 years of experience in the trade finance business.
Yes, and of the 77, just 3 think that the banking community at large is ready to face the threat given to us by AI-generated frauds.
And only 1 of them thought that the trade finance industry is ready for these threats, despite 49% of them thinking that indeed our business is threatened by AI.
Yes, and to go a bit deeper, let's look at one of our most treasured and long-standing products, the documentary letter of credit.
Let's go for it. I would like to welcome our teammate Adel on stage.
But guys, Adel didn't make it. He didn't get his visa.
Oh, not to worry, Carmen. Exhibit 2 of the day, we have Adele here in AI-generated form.
Documentary letters of credit are commonly viewed as a trusted trade instrument, yet it's still vulnerable to fraud, given how much the LC lifecycle relies on checking for compliant documents, whereby, under UCP 600, banks are obligated to examine documents, not interrogate the underlying trade flow as happened. While AI can help enhance operational efficiencies in the doc checking process, it also provides fraudsters the ability to generate realistic forged documents, create deepfakes to impersonate exporters or importers or both, and easily aggregate publicly available trade data to recreate fake but believable transactions.
Thanks a lot, AI Adel. Todd's video was created using a photo and his voice from a podcast. The one with Adel was creating using only a 5-second video of him. Now, people might get creative ideas on how they can use this in long, endless internal meetings, but that is not the purpose. Instead, I will focus on AI fraud in the LC lifecycle. As you can see, there are over 20 ways we have identified that can be used to commit fraud in the LC lifecycle. It could be forged shipping documents, fake invoices, or even fraudsters pretending to be a fake client or supplier, just to name a few. Historically, one could argue that it's difficult for a third party to commit fraud in the LC process. That's because of the interdependencies. You need more than one of these processes to be hijacked. However, AI makes this much easier and cheaper with just a click of a button. Now, if we were able to generate this AI Adel in just a few minutes, then just imagine how easy it will be for professional fraudsters with AI expertise to commit large-scale fraud against this historically well-protected process. With that said, I will now hand over to real-life Carmen in this time, and she will walk us through the broader AI landscape and its impact beyond the LC process.
Thank you, Oscar. So despite of this breathtaking landscape and the fact that there are more than 20 ways that AI can actually hijack your LC processes, the reality, and we need to be fair, is that so far, trade finance has stayed out of the storm when it comes to AI power fraud. Why? Because it's old school. Trade finance is about paper documents and gut checks, right? It's about the feel of the paper, the smell of the ink. And if you add this to the usually small ticket size nature of the trade finance transactions, along with the multi-party dependencies, the reality is that scams are not that attractive to pull off. And this is why fraudster has so far stayed out of trade finance and has looked somewhere else for easier targets. But unfortunately, or rather fortunately for all of us, the industry is changing. The game is changing. And as the industry digitalizes, these traditional safeguards are fading. And AI is perfectly positioned and perfectly capable to exploit those gaps. And that's actually the paradox, right? Digitalization is essential, including for fraud prevention, but without sufficient safeguard, it can also become a double-edged sword. Today, AI can do in seconds what it used to take months. And we have heard some of these examples from my colleagues. The mass production of paper documents, impersonation, data gathering and analysis, and even mapping out or even coming up with complex corporate structures to engineer sophisticated scams. All of this at the click of a button. But we need to be clear. AI is not coming up with new brand type of frauds. What AI is doing, it's making traditional fraud more sophisticated, more efficient, and cheaper. In short, what AI is doing is lowering barriers to fraud. It won't only be that scams are becoming more sophisticated, it's also about more people having the tools to try. The truth is, the perfect AI toolkit for fraud is not here yet, but it's only a matter of time. So we need to get ready. The future of fraud, it is no longer human versus fraudsters. As we heard from the earlier session on AI, the future of fraud is AI versus AI. So we need to move fast and we need to think big. We need to invest, and we need to invest in secure digitalization, strong governance, and AI, including AI-powered detection. The choice is ours, so we better get it right. How do we do it? Let's hear from Heidi.
Thanks, Carmen. So you've now heard how fraud can be perpetrated at a greater scale, at a cheaper cost, and in real time with increasingly sophisticated AI technologies. We're scared, but according to our market survey results, as an industry, we don't feel prepared for what's to come. So what can we do? So for banks, as you've heard from some of the cases today, a lot are related to identity theft. So at a bare minimum, banks need to deploy multi-factor authentication with their clients. No longer can you rely simply on a quick callback with your client. Secondly, as stewards of large volumes of trade data, which can be used to perpetrate and protect against fraud, banks need to ensure they have a secured way to store, share, and process data. So investment in trade digitalization initiatives will be key. As banks pick which technology solutions that they want to deploy as part of that trade digitalization journey, they need to ensure that they have been deploying cybersecurity best practices and making sure they're implementing best AI risk management frameworks. Further, banks need to partner with reputable technology providers because, as we know, with legacy bank systems, often when digital infrastructures are implemented, it's really difficult to change. For technology providers, help banks get there by giving them the explainability and traceability that they need to understand and deploy your solutions. And for regulators and industry partners, they need to work together to ensure there are global standards for trade digitalization and to ensure there is a healthy environment for innovation to thrive, as well as the proper guardrails in place. There are many other parties which we don't have time to discuss today who are equally important. But what is important is that industry-wide communication, collaboration, and engagement will be key to ensure there is an inclusive journey when it comes to combating future AI threat. Because ultimately, with our supply chain, which underpins trade finance, we're only as strong as our weakest link. And with that, it concludes the presentation part of our session. So thank you so much for listening. I'll now hand it over to Abigail and Eric, who will lead our Q&A. Thank you.
And as we begin to pick through some of the questions which are trickling through on the Slido, we wanted to take a moment to thank BAFT, to thank our program sponsor, Natasha Condon, whose goal it was for us to come up here and hopefully scare you all. Our program mentors, Bridget Bonilla and Cameron Stanton, and ultimately everyone here who contributed in one form, shape, or another to our white paper, by either virtue of the survey or the individual one-on-one conversations which we conducted. And I'll take the first question, which is what can I do within my organization? And I think at the risk of saying something very simple, it's just about understanding that AI is here. And we're clearly, I think, past the point of this just being seen as maybe an IT issue. Ultimately, we're all risk managers at the end of the day, and I believe it's our responsibility to challenge some of the controls and existing processes that we have in place today and look at it from the lens of some of the AI threat vectors, which hopefully we've been able to demonstrate today. And really, it's just about starting. So it could be as simple as sharing the white paper internally, challenging the compliance, the operational teams with just giving it a thorough review and trying to come up with some new and creative ideas to combat this fraud. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Eric. I think we have time for one more question. I see a question about what other trade products you do other than the LCs in your paper. That is really good question because in our paper, we also focus on the supply chain finance, have a deep dive, especially on the open account. There is a number is really remarkable. One thing is more than 80% of the world trade volume is settled by the open account. And the number is going to expect it to grow in the near futures. Like LCs, like documentary trade, supply chain finance can be attacked by AI as well, given the nature of ICF and also the level of digitalizations. There are two scenarios we discuss in our paper. The first one is to onboard and pay to the fake suppliers. So in this case, the fraudsters can use the AI technology and to use the open database transaction details to create the supplier's profile that seems real, but it's not a real one. And after that, they can use the technology to mimic like the buyer's signatures, the communication styles, or even use the deepfake technologies to let them to instruct the bank to onboard the fake suppliers. Once the supplier onboarded, they can also do the same until the bank make the early payments to the suppliers, but it's not the real one. There are another case, even the supplier is a real one, that the fraudsters can also use the technologies to instruct the bank to make the false payment to the fraudster's account, not the real supplier. And in this one, the buyer and the bank can only realize that when the real supplier come out to say, hey, where is my money? So I think it's our time. Thanks everyone to be here joining us and listening. If you're interested to our topic, welcome to download our white paper on the BAFT website, which will be available soon. And 5 minutes later, they are going to have another Future Leader program presentation. So welcome them and thanks. So have a good day.